Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Melissa Re-Alfred here. Glad you can jump on today. If you're new, just welcome. And just to give a little background information about this channel, I made it because I just want to brag about the Lord. He's been so, so good. And I'm really grateful that I've had a lot of amazing encounters over the last 3 decades or so. And I have a lot of things that I want to share, prophetic words, teachings, and dreams, things about the miraculous, supernatural healings. And so, because I have a lot of different things and I only come on once a week and I try to put out a new video every Thursday, I can only share one thing at a time. So I pray about, Lord, what it is that you want me to share this week with whoever needs to hear it. And so this week, I really felt impressed by the Lord that I need to share this testimony that I had. Actually, it's really very recent, and I trust that it's going to get to the right people that it's going to get to. And so this testimony is about the time, very recently, where us as a family of six, we needed a home. So we'll just start from the beginning. It was a few years ago, and we were living in my father's home. He had bought this home in 1999 in a beautiful seaside resort town in Canada on the East Coast. And we had moved into it. And it was just really to the understanding that this was going to be our home. It was going to be my children's home. It was going to be my grandchildren's home. When my father would pass away, that would be the inheritance that he passed on to us. And so my father did actually pass away a few years ago, kind of sudden. And, it was actually during the same week that I gave birth to our fourth baby. And so, for those of you who ever lost a parent or a father, I completely understand. And it's just a really difficult and hard and shocking time, especially when you're giving birth a few days later. It was such a crazy, crazy week. We got, my father left this earth and my son was born breathing on his own outside of my womb, all within a span of 1 week of each other. And so, not long after that, outside of my control, our house was put for sale. And so that was just kind of devastating, losing my father, and then now we're losing our home at the same time. And I didn't know much about it, but the house had sold. There was a offer that was put in. I didn't know that there was an offer put in. I wasn't told. The only time that I was told is when it was time to move. I got an email saying, listen, the house has been sold and you have 3 weeks to move, which is kind of, quick as well. We had a lot going on. We are a large family, 4 kids, all the things are happening. And so we had basically 3 weeks to move. And when I got that email, it was overwhelmed, but I had peace at the same time. I just had this supernatural peace at the same time. And I leaned into the peace, then left the overwhelming part. And so as I leaned into the peace, I just kind of went into a chair. We had a little nook in the bedroom at the time where it had like this chair where we would sit and read, and it had, a side table, and it had bookshelves and all those things. And I just went there and I just thank God. I thanked him for the fact that, I don't know what's happening, I don't know where we're going now. I don't know where we're going to move to. We don't have a home to move to. And we have basically 21 days to leave the home that, I thought would be our forever home, or my kids' home and my grandkids' home. And so all that had really changed quite suddenly. And but I knew that God, as much as it was overwhelming and disappointing to me, I just knew that God was not overwhelmed and God has a plan, right? And so I just thanked him and I worshiped him and I praised him in that moment. And as I'm sitting there, just to give you a little bit of a background situation, there's a big wing chair sitting there, and in front of it was, like a bookshelf, and it had like hundreds of books on it, and there's books crammed in there, and there's books on top of books, and there's just, full of books. And the Lord had spoken to me while I'm sitting there, and he brought my attention to the bookshelf, and he highlighted this one book to me. And it's a book that I had read a few years ago, and then I finished reading it and I stuck it on the shelf like I do with a lot of my books, and you probably do the same thing. And so he highlighted that book to me. And as I go to pull the book out, like I reach my hand to grab that book from the bookshelf, I hear the Lord say, "Turn to page 73." And I thought, okay, great. So I turned to page 73, and as I opened the book, and right in the middle of the book, on page 73, and right in the middle of that page is like a little bit of a title highlighted. So I know that the author is going to, share something new. And it just so happened that he's sharing this testimony. And it had like this highlighted title to it. And the title was, um, it said that the Lord sent an angel and helped us get into our home. And I knew right then and there that the Lord is speaking to me during that moment, and that he has a plan, and that even though I'm being forced to leave my home that I thought was ours, that he has another home for us that he's going to get us into. And so I just want to pause right there actually, because over the years I've had people ask me, how do I hear the Lord? How do I hear his voice? How do I know that it's the Lord speaking? How do I discern if it's from him or if it's from me? Like, how do I do that? And so in this conversation, for example, I didn't hear an audible voice. There wasn't an earthquake. There wasn't some sort of dramatic event that took place. I just heard the Lord like a friend, or I just heard him as if I'm having a conversation with somebody. And a lot of the times the Lord will speak in that still small voice or in that quiet moment. And so I actually created a free resource for you guys if you're interested. And it's called Learning to Hear the Voice of God. I'm going to link it down below for you if you want to download that. It's yours to do so. And it just gives a really simple, sometimes we complicate things too much, and it's just never meant to be complicated. Um, but it just really gives out a really simple understanding and discerning on how to hear the voice of God. So it's yours to take if you wish. Feel free, and I hope that it blesses you guys. So back to the story. So I'm sitting there and I'm staring at this title and I'm staring at this book that, now you got to understand, like, it's hundreds of books are in front of me, right? And the book that I pulled out was hundreds of pages long. So, you know, there's just no circumstance in which I'm going to pull out this book, which I wasn't even thinking of, reading, and my plan wasn't sit there to read a book, right? It was to cast my cares on the Lord and the cares of, what now, what next? And when you need a home, with your 4 kids and your family of 6, like, it's a big care, right? It's a very big care. And so, there's just no way that I'm like, oh, I'm going to just sit down, grab this book, and I'm going to turn to this page. And so it's absolutely the Lord who ordered all my steps in that, situation, and that he knew that I needed it at the time, because we didn't actually get into our own home for a couple of years, but I could like grab on to that moment, and I could hold on to that moment, and I can hold on to that promise that he gave me, because he's just so good. And I can hold on to that during the times that it got really heavy over the next few years. We were in, a basement for a long time, and it was really kind of our friends to open up that basement for us. But, we're a big family. Like, that's a big ask of anybody. And we didn't ask either. The Lord had laid it on their heart to help us out. And so we were able to keep our kids in school. My husband was able to keep his job at the time and do all those things that we needed to do. And so the Lord did open up doors, but there were some moments where it felt pretty heavy and dark for me. Like, I didn't know how we were going to get into a home. It felt super impossible. And not only did the Lord open a door for us, we got into a home that is like more than we can ask for. Like, it has so much more space than we can ask for. All of our kids have, their own bedroom, and there's space for the kids where they have their own, room outside of that. They can have their friends over. And, there's just so much more. Like it's better than what I could thought or imagine. And even though as I'm even saying that, like even when we got this home, I feel like the Lord is just not done. Like there's just so much more coming because I don't know, because he's God like that. And if he wants to bless you, he can do that. And even like right now, I'm sitting in my attic office. You don't know how I've always wanted an attic office. Maybe you want something different, but I've always had this desire, kind of like a secret desire. It's not something that I'm sharing publicly or, I've shared it with my husband, but there's just something about this like attic office I've always wanted, with the dormers and everything. And if you look behind me, I have this wallpaper that I installed that I fell in love with. It's just so me and my personality. And I just love it so much. But, every time I look at it, it has like the bird on there and it has the flowers. And I'm instantly reminded every time like how good God takes care of, just the birds. Like he takes care of the birds. Like if he feeds the birds and he takes care of the birds every single moment of every single day, and he has a place for them to live, and he has food for them, and he clothes the flower, and it's like splendid and it's wonderful. And he said, how much more am I going to do that for you? Like, how much more am I going to do that for his bride, his people? Like, he's such a good provider. And in this world that we live in and in the circumstances that we go through, there really is a fight for our attention. Are we going to put our attention to, the things that, can be really heavy when we're in need? Or are we going to put our attention into Christ and throwing all of our faith and all of our trust towards him instead? And in Jeremiah 17:7, it says, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord, that he is like a tree planted by the water. And so even when you're going through those, dark, heavy seasons where you don't know how you're going to get out of it, even in there, you're going to be like that highlighted tree when you throw all your trust and all your faith into Christ in those moments. Like those are, the most amazing parts of the testimony, that when you don't have it, but you're believing God and trusting in God that he can provide it for you. Those are like the gold sticker star moments. And I think like it just, how could he not move? How could he not move when you throw all of your trust and you believe him for giving you what you need? If he's clothing the birds and feeding the birds and giving them homes, and he's clothing the flowers when their splendidness and their silky petals, and he's causing them to have sun and water to grow, like, what do you think he can do for you? He can do so much more. And so I just love the wallpaper. It's a reminder every time I walk in here. I just thank him for providing for us. He does such a better job than we can ever do for ourselves. And he's just so faithful. He's just so faithful. It's just who he is. And I hope that this testimony has blessed you. If you know somebody who's in need of a home themselves, or maybe they don't necessarily need a home, but they need something, and, just send this video to them. I pray that it encourages them. And I hope to see you guys back here next week with a new video. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm going to wait for the Lord to guide me into that. And I hope that this one has blessed you. Please subscribe, guys. It does help the channel get out there and the word out about God's goodness, his faithfulness. And we just want to brag on Jesus, brag on his goodness. And till next time, have a great week, guys. And again, just put all your chips on Christ. Bet on the house. Put all your chips on God. He's not going to fail you. And he has, a good plan for you, an expected end for you. And whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that you're going through, he's got you. So God bless, take care, and see you again next time.